Hi, this is Doug from Doug's Dog Training, and this video is going over the E-Collar by E-Collar Technologies, the ET-300. We're going to go over how the remote works, the settings on the remote, the safety features of the remote, as well as the light feature of the remote. This is the receiver. So the receiver, a collar's attached to the receiver, and these are the electrodes that, if you're going to use the stimulation part or the shock part, have to touch the skin of the dog. Now, for Gary, which this video is really for his owners, we're not going to be using the electric part, the stimulation part. So that's why the safety mechanism of locking it out so the numbers can't move around and you can't increase or decrease the level of the shock is very important. So this is the remote, this is the receiver, and we purchased the additional collar, not the standard collar that comes with it, and it's the Bungee Collar. As you can see, it stretches with the dog's neck as he moves, as his neck gets enlarged, if he's running around, as well as the quick clasp, which is nice. So once you have the proper sizing for Gary, and Gary's right behind me laying on his bed, all we have to do is to put it on, is put it around his neck, quick clasp, and you're all set. Now, where we want this receiver to be is, as you see, there's enough space in between. If you feel your neck, the dog has the same thing. There's ligaments that go down each side that protect the carotid artery. So what we really want is, we want it to pretty much fit, so that ligament is in the middle of them, is in the middle electrodes, and then you just clasp the collar. I like to, so when you start using it at home, I like to rotate it. So if one day I have it on the right side of the dog, then the next day I'll put it on the left side. He can wear this collar whenever you're home. Whenever you're home, you can directly supervise him. It could be a couple hours, it could be an hour, it could be 6 hours. If he's in the crate, it shouldn't be on. If you're not home, it shouldn't be on. So it should only be on when you're home and you can directly supervise him. Now let's go back a little, rewind what this is for though. This tool isn't for teaching Gary anything. Everything that Gary came to me for, we worked on teaching positive reinforcement. So I used treats, I taught him how to sit, how to down, how to come when called, how to go to his place, to stay on his place. I taught him break. So this collar is not to teach, he's already been taught. This collar is for two reasons. Actually three reasons. One is to reinforce what we've already done. So if we know Gary knows to go to place and he might just be stubborn, we can use it, again, recommand. So I'm going to say place, he looks at me like, I'm not going to go to place, and I'll say no, I'll be clear with him. Then I'll use the collar, so I'll say place, hit the button. As we know he's going towards it and he's on it, then we release it, we mark it yes, boom. We also are going to use it as a punisher. Specifically, there's a all likelihood that one of the issues that Gary does is he jumps on the door when somebody's coming home, and the door is full of glass, is all glass, and obviously Gary's like 40 pounds, and there's a chance that he could break the glass and to get seriously injured, or somebody else get injured. So his parents may use this as a punisher. If you say no and you've told them not to, or you've worked on teaching the new behavior like we did in the previous video, yesterday's video, of teaching them either to stay on place, a bomb-proof place, and he can't go running to the door, or you've used the leash correction and then taught him a new behavior to sit, and he's not allowed to move or leave that sit or down or back to place until you release him. This could be a way of saying, Gary, no, and hitting the button. The other one is probably one of the most important, is we like to have our dogs be free off a leash and be able to run in a field. Well, with those things is there's some things that could be high distractions to a dog that even if you have a very good recall, he may be more interested in, like he's all of a sudden sees a squirrel running, or he sees a rabbit, or another dog, or a human, or he smells something, and you're saying, Gary, come, he's not listening. His default for this is when he feels the stimulation. Actually, I'm going to back up. Let me just repeat. We're not using the stimulation for Gary. We're only teaching the vibrate. And I'm going to go over the remote on what's vibrate and what's stimulation, and again, how to lock out the remote so you can't get any stimulation, or if by accident you press the wrong button, it's a very, very low where you won't feel it. So we're going to be teaching him that when he feels the vibrate, he's going to come back to me. When he comes back to me, I'm going to release the vibrate button. I'm going to mark it yes and give him a treat. So within a 2 or 3 days, what's going to happen is anytime Gary feels the vibrate, his automatic default is going to be to come back to whoever he's working with or whoever he's next to. With that said, you will see some dogs that no matter what will, after a couple of days, will just stay by your side because they don't like that vibrating feeling. So what we do is we also teach not only the dog to come to us whenever he feels it, we also teach the dog to go to his place. We want to teach the dog 2 ways of turning off that vibrate. Where Gary's not a very, Gary's a soft dog, so any little pressure, if you raise your voice, if you give him a leash correction, it doesn't have to be hard. He's very sensitive, he's soft. That's okay, that's a good thing. That's a good thing when we're training, so that's not a bad thing. So with that said, what'll happen is when you're teaching 2-3 days of conditioning him, when he feels the vibrate to come back to you and you're rewarding it, typically a dog for a couple of days will just stay by your side because he knows I don't feel that vibrate if I stay by your side. Good thing and bad thing. So the next step we teach is also to go to place, which is teaching 1 step condition is to come to me, and the next step is to go away. So he's balanced. So the dog's balanced, and he understands that I can turn off that uncomfortable feeling. I just have to listen. Are they telling me to go to bed, or are they place, or are they telling me to come to me? So that's what we call collar conditioning, teaching the dog how to turn off that uncomfortable feeling. And again, we're only using the vibrate option on this collar. We're not going to be using the electric part, the shock part, the stim part, whatever you want to call it. That would be a separate lesson. And if the owners want to do that because they feel the vibrate doesn't give them enough options, then we'll schedule a different lesson. So let's go over the remote functions. So the remote has an LCD screen. When you see the numbers, you know it's on. When you see the receiver, if you don't see it blinking, it usually will blink like every second, a green light. If it's not blinking at all, then you know it's off. So on the remote, if you look on the back it says on, off, and it also says light. So when I hold this button down, or press it in I should say, the LCD screen will light up. You'll see a red blinking light under here. The LCD screen will light up. Maybe within a second I release it, it's on. If I press it again while it's on, what'll happen is, again, a nice little function of this, the receiver has a light. So once it's on, if I press it one more time, it'll strobe. So maybe you're walking late at night, you forgot your flashlight, it's a dark street, you can click it once, it's a strobe light. Boom, boom, boom. If you press it one more time, and it's just a quick click, press in, you'll have a steady light, and I'll show you that. So obviously that'll drain the battery quicker the longer you use it. When you look at this remote, again, it's off. This is the dial. Right here is the dial that turns the numbers on the LCD screen, which is the control of the electric or the shock amount. At 0, there's nothing. At 100, which says high, it says 99, then high, is abuse. You don't need that. Gary is more like a 6 to an 8 where he feels it. And that's how I teach. If I'm going to use the electric part or the shock part or the stimulation part, I teach very low level. And what we do is we call it finding our working level, meaning the lowest level that the dog shows us that he feels it. and Gary is between a 6 and an 8. Again, this collar goes from 0, nothing, to 100, high abuse. So if, and again, we're not using an electric pop, but I need to go over this because I don't want you to accidentally hit the shock. And if you accidentally don't use the safety mechanism to lock out that low number, you could accidentally shock them on a high number, which can create a lot of problems with a dog. They call it superstitious behavior. So if a dog was around a tree down at the beach and there was wind rustling and leaves were making noise, if you did that by accident and he got that high shock, he could possibly, for the rest of his life, be nervous around the tree, or if he hears that the leaves rustling in the wind, or if he smells the beach. So that's why it's important to understand the electric part, how to lock it out, also how to unlock it. So when we're using the electric part, there's 2 buttons here on the right. So we can set this collar on continuous, which I set it up for, or momentary. I'm just going to discuss the continuous. So if I set the menu to C, which on the LCD it'll say C, that means it's continuous. That means that whatever number we have on the LCD screen, if I press this top button, that's what Gary will feel, and I can hold it up to 10 seconds. So if I need to stimulate him that long, which you shouldn't have to, it'll hold for 10 seconds and it shuts off. You'll have to release if you have to, and then press it again. The red button, so these 2 buttons are for the electric part, the shock part, the stimulation part. You're not going to use them, but if you do it by accident, you have to understand this. The red button is called the boost button when I have it set at continuous. So this button gives us the number we have it set on, whatever his working level is. The red button comes factory 5 numbers higher. So if I have Gary on a 7 and I've conditioned him, I've done all the exercises, and we're out in the field and he sees a rabbit and I say, Gary, come, and he doesn't come and he starts to chase the rabbit, I can say, Gary, come, hit it, and if he still doesn't stop, I have the ability to go up higher quickly, and all likelihood that'll be enough stimulation to break him from that prey drive of chasing an animal or another dog, just not listening to you. And this remote is good up to half a mile. It's fully charged. So these 2 buttons are for the electric part. We're not going to use them. If you decide at some point later on that the vibrate just isn't working, call me, we'll schedule a lesson. Now when we turn it to the other side, we have 1 button. If we hold that button down, that pretty much makes this remote, receiver vibrate, which will be enough for Gary for what we're doing. So again, these 2 buttons, electric, shock, stimulation. This 1 button is for the vibrate. In order to turn this on, again, on-off button, I'm going to press it in, and hold it about a second. You'll see the LCD screen light up, then I can release it. That means that the remote's on. So let's see. I'm going to press it in. Now, red button, red light on the bottom, LCD screen lights up, I release it. Now my remote is on. So you can see it flash, as well as green means it's on. Obviously the light's on, we know the remote's active. Right there. So to turn these on, I just showed you how to turn the remote. To turn the receiver on, they both have batteries that have to be charged, and I have the cord to show you. There's a red button, a red dot on the bottom left-hand side. So if you have the LCD screen looking at you, on the bottom left, I'm sorry, on the bottom right, your left, my right. So when you're looking at it, on the bottom right, there's a red dot. And when you look at where the light function is, there's another red dot. In order to turn them off or turn them on, you just have to bring the red from the remote over the red to the receiver. And if you see, let's see the green on the receiver go on. So now you know, and you'll see it blink. So the receiver's on, and you can see the number, and the green should blink on that. So if the number on the LCD screen's working, you know the remote's on. Again, the single button on the remote is for vibrate. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this, but I'm gonna, so again, you gotta make sure that your receiver's on. It's blinking, we know it's on. I'm going to press down the remote. Let's see if you can hear it. Probably can't hear it, but you can feel it. So, again, what do we use this collar for? This collar will be used for a backup or a reinforcer of what he's already learned using positive reinforcement. We're not using it to teach anything. So if you're gonna do something outside what I've worked on with Gary or whatever dog, go back to teaching whatever obedience command you want to teach or anything, trick or whatever, go back to teaching with food. And again, this is a backup. So let's talk about the electric. This is important again. The safety function on this collar is if I hold this button down for approximately 2 seconds, what I do is I lock that number that's on that screen, meaning once I have the lock function set, no matter what happens, even though the number, once I get that off, will show up there, if you accidentally hit it, the wrong buttons, he's not going to get a shock. So typically what I want to do is, as you see, I turned it on, I didn't have it on. So I'm going to bring it down to 1. It's hard, I know it's hard for you. So I'm going to bring it down to 1 on the LCD screen. So let's see if you can see it. Come on, baby. So that's 1. In order to lock it or unlock it, you're just going to press this toggle straight down and hold it. Let's see. So once the light goes on, so I've held it. See the green light? Now I can release it. So I locked it in. Come on. Camera's trying to focus. So I locked it on 1. Now I'm going to turn the knob all the way to the right. Well, all the way to the left if it's facing me. As you see, that number didn't change. That's such a great safety feature because, again, there's a chance you could put it down someplace if you're working at home or if you're going out to a park, you got it in your pocket or you're using a lanyard. And what happens is there's a chance that what'll happen is there's a chance the toggle could be moved and the number goes up. And if something happens quick and you go to reach it and because you haven't used it enough and you accidentally hit the shock button, that number could be extremely high and he gets a shock that wasn't warranted, is unnecessary, and can create superstitious behavior. So again, I played with the toggle. It's still at 1. In order to take it off now, this is where you'll see why it's so important. I'm going to take it off and it'll go to whatever the number is that by accidentally turning it is at, but the lock system protected us from accidentally hitting them at an inappropriate shock. Okay, I'll release it. Let's see what it is. So you can see it was at 22. If I didn't have that on and I let him on a county, all of a sudden he goes running, or I lose the leash and I go to press and I press the wrong button, that 22 is very high. He wasn't necessary. That locking of the number of the shock is very important. And even though we're only using vibrate for Gary, I want you to make sure that whenever you're going to use this remote, that you set it at 1. So we're going to set it at 1. And again, we don't use at 0. I'm pretty sure at 0 you can't lock it because there's no shock. So you got to set it at 1. Even if you accidentally hit this, he won't feel it. So let's see if you can see. Okay, so you see 1. I'm just going to take my finger straight down. So if you turn it a little bit, you're going to turn the number, the setting. So I'm going to hold it. You see the red light go on, off, goes to green. Now I can release it. And now I can turn it and it stays at 1. Very important to understand that. So 2 buttons. We always have the C on our LCD, which is continuous. We set it at 1. We lock it in. and we don't have to worry about it for the rest of the day unless you take the safety mechanism off. If you take it off, then you got to make sure you set it back at 1 and press down and lock it in. So you'll see the red light blink, then the green light blinks, and once it turns green, you know the safety is either on or off. So we always want to have it at 1 and locked in. And again, these buttons here, this is for up to 10 seconds. That would be the shock that if I press this by accident, he would feel. He won't feel anything at 1. Just so that you know, most humans feel that low level, the lowest level between 12 and 15. Most dogs, like Gary, are going to be between 5 and 9. Gary's more like a 6 to an 8. Those two buttons would be the number that he would feel. This would be 5 numbers higher, 5 levels higher, which is our boost button. And the single side, and it says T because you also can set tone. I don't use tone. We have it set at vibrate. So in order to shut this off, let's talk about the light. So I was just looking because when it turns green, or it blinks green, I know it's on. So in order to show the light, I'm going to click once. So that's the strobe. If I click one more time, that's continuous. Click one more time, it's off. So the on-off button / light, when the remote and the receiver are on, if I click one more time, it goes to strobe. One more time, it goes to continuous light. One more time, the light shuts off. Now to shut it off, it's just the opposite. To shut the receiver off, I'm going to take the red button to the red button on the receiver. You'll see it turn red light, you know it's off. So let's do it. Red light, the receiver's off. I know the remote is still on because the numbers are still on. So now I'm going to press the on-off button in, approximately 2 to 3 seconds. It'll flash and it'll shut down. So that is, in a nutshell, the basic understanding of the ET-300 shock collar. Now, in order to charge it, you have 2 ports for water resistance. Now, Thor, what you doing, bud? So there's a little rubber covering in the back of the remote. As you see, a little rubber covering. So that's where one port is for charging the remote. On the back of the receiver, this little rubber cover is the port to charge. So what you do is, the charger comes with 2 prongs. You take it. One prong goes in the back here. Goes right in. The next prong goes in the back of the remote. Let me see. Always got to fumble around when you're doing a camera. So now I have them plugged into the remote and the receiver. Basic plug in, plug it in. When both turn green, so when it's off, make sure the remote and the receiver are off. When it's fully charged, this will show green down the bottom. And what you'll have is this will show green, okay? So just a quick reminder, and again, one more time. We always want to have the LCD screen numbers at 1. So to turn it on, I'm going to hold the on-off button in until the LCD screen goes on. Boom, it's on. I can release the button. I'm going to take my red little button to the red on the receiver. Touch it. You see the green light go on. So now I have my remote and my receiver on. I want to look at the LCD. I turn it. It's not turning. I know it's locked on from the last time I used it. It won't move. So I know I'm set at 1. I don't have to worry about it. But if the numbers go up, So I'm going to take it off. So now if the numbers go up, like that, up to high, now I know I have to bring it back down. There it is. So if you see it high, now I got to bring it back down to 1. 7, I think, yeah. So I got it at 1. Nope, 4. Okay, so 0, I want to move it to 1 because the safety feature doesn't work at 0. So I got it at 1. I'm going to hold my button straight down until I see a green on the bottom. It's going to go red first. Red. Go to green. Now I know it's locked in. So now I can turn. I'm turning the top dial and it's not moving. These 2 buttons are for the electric stimulation or the shock. We're not using them. But if you accidentally do, and you have that locked at 1, we don't have to worry. He's not going to feel anything at 1. Hey, no, place. Hey, place. Thor, place. Excuse me. Thor, come here. Lay down over here. Good boy, down. Back with you. So, again, safety mechanism, very important. 1, we don't have to worry. Vibrate. LCD's on. Green light's blinking. Receiver's on. Place it on the dog. You can put it on the left side or the right side. Again, you want to try to adjust it so that, I'm just putting the rubber cover back on. We want to pretty much have it so the ligament on his neck, we have it in between the 2 electrodes. Pretty much going to clip it on. And what I like to do is when it's on him, well, it's actually for the electric part, but because I want to teach all around, I like to just move it back and forth so that the electrodes push the hair off and we have good contact. You don't have to worry about, we're using only vibrate, but if somebody else watches it, they need to know that. So you clip it on. This tool is not used to teach. Can't say it enough. So what we're using it as a reinforcer. It's also going to be as a corrective device. And you also can use it, definitely want to use it as a recall, as a backup. So we always use our commands first. Hi, bud. We always use the commands first, and we hopefully, we've trained him enough that he, whether it's Gary, come, sit, down, place, he does it. If he doesn't listen to you, you want to say a firm no, second or 2, recommand, and then use your vibrate of the collar. Specifically, I'm thinking of the episode of what we talked about yesterday. Your decision has to be whether you're going to correct and teach a new behavior instead of jumping on the door, or a bomb-proof place that you work on. He just has to stay on place until you release him, which is the break command. So if he's not listening and you say, Gary, no, and he gets off the bed, then you can use your vibrate. And again, you have your leash on him. It's important because when you first start doing this, even though I'm going to condition him and teach him how to shut it off, when he goes to your house, it's a brand new picture to him. So your leash is important. So when you're hitting the vibrate, Gary, no, place. And you hit the vibrate, and you got to guide him back to the place bed. And that's where you'll see after a few reps, it's more clear for him. So remember, pictures for the dog. He trains here, but when he goes home, I can train him so he's perfect here. But if you don't work on everything that we've discussed and work on all the things that I've been working on with him, he's just going to do what he's always done with you, which is probably not listen and get away with everything. The other thing is recall. Great tool for recall. We love to see our dogs off leash and having fun in a safe area. There's a lot of things that come with that. There could be a new dog running onto a field. There could be a rabbit or a squirrel. Those things get dogs to chase and not listen. Those are high distractions. So if you can't get them back with your voice, the verbal command of, Gary, come, then you have the backup for the vibrate. there is a chance with the vibrate, because it's not a high level distraction for him or a correction, which as time goes on, he'll understand how to accommodate that, meaning listen to you. There's a chance that that competing distraction, meaning the rabbit running and the vibrate, might not be enough. So that's where you might make a decision that, hey, I want to learn how to use electric. Again, call me. We'll set up a lesson. It's usually a couple of lessons to get that down and to learn how to use the working level, find the working level, what shows that it's a working level, and then teach them again. It's a brand new feeling. You can't just expect the dog to understand. That's where our leash, our verbal commands, our leash pressure, teaching them exactly what you want with that vibrate. So hopefully this helped you. Let me know if you have any other questions. Tomorrow or the next lesson will show you how I start conditioning him, how to understand when he feels the vibrate, what to do. The first one is to come back to me, which is the recall, short leash. I hit the vibrate. I'm bringing him in because he's going to try to run away. He doesn't know what to do. And over reps, what happens is he learns to just come to me. I want to shut that off. I don't like that feeling. I come back to him. Not only that, but I also get a treat. So that's a good thing. Then once we have that situated, we want to teach him to go away. So he's balanced. Because what happens, like some dogs, and typically dogs like Gary and Thor that are softer, that don't like that feeling. Other dogs, like the vibrate, doesn't even bother them. Like there's no effect at all. What they'll tend to do after 2 or 3 sessions is they'll tend to just stay by you. If I stay by you, I don't feel that, because you've taught them to come back to you. So what we want to do is teach them to go away from us, and that gives them balance. Balance of when I feel that uncomfortable vibrate, I got to listen. I either got to come back or I got to go away. Okay? So hopefully this lesson, this video helps you to understand the collar, how to turn it on, how to turn it off, the safety function, the light function. And if you have any questions, either leave a comment or obviously Gary's parents, text me and we'll discuss it. Thanks. Please, also please subscribe to my YouTube channel and like this video. And if you wouldn't mind, even if you don't want to comment, just put a letter A, number 1. Anything in the comment section will help me to at least try to get into the algorithm of YouTube. I'm a little tiny twerp in the YouTube universe. I'd like to try to grow this channel. Thanks and have a great day.